This is the regular scheduled meeting of the USD230 Board of Education. We'll call this meeting to order. Rachel, please take the roll.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Hull,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker, Mrs. Horn,
Here.
Mr. Chitwood,
Present.
Mrs. Milius,
Here.
Mr. Ewing. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. All right, next on the agenda, approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna beat you to it, Chair. Second.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Motion and a second. Any comments? Rachel, please take the vote.
Mr. Hull,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
approved.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, will you please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on, mission, the reading of the USD230 mission and vision. We read these to keep these in the forefront of all of our thoughts as we make decisions regarding our district. Our mission is to be a school district that engages students to learn, create, adapt, and succeed in an ever-changing world. And our vision is to maintain small town values and empower each student to achieve world-class success. All right, next item, public participation.
No cards were presented.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, next is approval of the consent agenda items, which includes personnel, approval of the minutes, approval of the contract for RSP, and renewal of Leader in Me program.
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, Rachel, please take the vote.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Hull,
Yes.
approved.
Wonderful. Moving on to good news, recognitions and announcements.
Yes, before we do our highlight video, I want to just kind of remind everyone, the first day of school for all students, with the exception of grades 10 through 12, is set for tomorrow, Tuesday, August 13th. Hopefully we'll have a great weather day. It's always exciting when a new school year begins. We do ask that everyone, especially our parents, be patient and flexible the first few days as we get all of our wrinkles ironed out in the manner that they're intended to be. Our bus routes, both in the AM and PM, could be a little off schedule the first days. And we do ask for your understanding. We do take a lot of time, especially at the elementary levels in the afternoon, those first days, to make sure that students get on the correct bus. And we also want to make sure that they get off, on the right stop, and that there is, especially at certain ages, that there's someone there, an adult. And so to get all that ironed out takes a little bit. So again, we ask for some grace those first 2 days, but I know that our staff are prepared to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible. To that end, I also want to give a huge shout out to Life Spring Church, the Spring Hill Education Foundation, and First Options Bank for having a Support Our Students event that was held yesterday on Sunday, August the 11th. This event provided an array of back-to-school items for our families, everything from backpacks, school supplies, sports physicals, and even fresh haircuts. So again, a shout out to those groups. I know that some of our own, Mr. Tim Meek, others, our food service department was there as well, Mrs. Dalton. So again, thanks to everyone that helped contribute to that event, because anything we can do with partnerships to help our students, have what they need to succeed, definitely we want to be all about that and help in any way possible. So at this time, even though tomorrow's first day, we did have our opening ceremony today. This morning, all of our staff come together once a year. Well, try to get to everybody twice, but for sure, the big one is the opening ceremony. We have all of our staff come. We have a breakfast, and then we even after the breakfast, have everyone come into our auditorium at the high school. We do everything from a roll call to recognizing some of our brightest and best younger teachers, from the prior school year. And then, like I said, we have remarks, by our Board of Education president. We do some drawings, but again, just a really good event. And so we have our communication. We asked our communications department to put together just a very small opening ceremony highlight video that just kind of, as well as some things from the first, couple days of school. Because last week we had our back to school nights for elementary. We also had, in addition to our back to school nights for elementary, we had a freshman orientation. So I asked them to try to capture some of that, and then we hopefully will come back on the 26th of August at our next meeting, and we'll have another video that hopefully will highlight some of the highlights of our first days of the school year that actually starts tomorrow. And I don't know if we'll be able to actually get, we had hoped to get the video up. It may not, like I said, it was actually late this afternoon whenever we were able to get it pulled together. We may not have, due to some technical glitches, be able to get it up and going. But if not, we'll definitely bring it back and put it out there whenever it's available in form.
It'll have to be shared. It's not shared publicly.
So apparently we'll see if we can get it shared between now and the end of the meeting. We'll reach out to the individual that worked on that for us. And if we can, we'll come out and watch it. If not, like I said, we'll make sure that it is available because it is part of public content. But again, that's my good news, recognitions and announcements. And should get more of those in the coming meetings now that once the school year gets started. Next week, our activity, a lot of our athletic activities start, and we'll definitely have a full slate every meeting just about. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I was at the thing this morning. It was wonderful. Thank you to all our sponsors, and thank you to Life Spring Church. It sounds like they do some really great stuff for our community. So, all right, moving on. Discussion items, 8.01 athletic trainer contract.
Yes, we approved back in the spring an athletic trainer agreement. We've had an athletic trainer arrangement with Olathe Medical Center, now owned by KU Med, that our actual contract and arrangement is still through Olathe Medical. So we just renewed that for a 3-year period. They provide athletic trainer services, especially to our high school level, many of our sports, but especially also some of our varsity contests. And they recently proposed an addendum to that would provide another service. It's not something that we have to agree to, but I think that again some of our key personnel think it would be beneficial. And so we have Mr. Clay Fregon, who is our activities athletic director at Spring Hill High School, here to kind of give you a little bit of insight as to how this addendum came about and what it would provide, as well as why it is felt it would be a strong benefit to have. So, Mr. Fregon.
All right. Good evening. And like he said, we're really looking forward to school getting started. And then next week with our athletics a little bit different this year, with us starting athletics the week and kind of following the start of school, but it's kind of nice. We can get in all those physicals and get that taken care of. So did want to talk to you about adding a team physician. that would be on the sideline for our home varsity football games. And you guys read through the contract, kind of see that would include 4 regular scheduled games this year. And then the potential for, if we did host in the playoffs, that could potentially add on to that cost. Really, as far as getting this started, there's just been some talk as far as how we can continue to keep our kids safe. I think that's our utmost important thing that we can be doing as far as overseeing all of our kids, is making sure and keep them safe. And so that's something that some of the other schools around the area have gone to. I know most of the Olathe schools do have a team physician that's attached to their school, just like this would be. And so that's what KU kind of came back with this and said, hey, this is an option for you guys. And just after looking through it, it looked like a great opportunity for us. We do have, and all over since I've been here, I believe we've always had the fire department come, and they do offer some limited services, but they're not necessarily a physician, an MD. So this would just offer a little bit higher level of care for our kids. If you want some stats from last year, just kind of quickly, for just home games last year, our athletic trainer dealt with 4 concussions, a high ankle sprain, a lacerated kidney, a clavicle fracture, and a dislocated patella. So all of those a little bit higher level as far as what care needs. She handled them well, but it would just kind of, and really, this would really help be able to kind of speed up the process as far as getting them the care that they need after they leave the high school. So it would kind of speed up some things as far as referrals and that sort of thing to get them any type of specialized care. You guys have any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
I know our athletic trainer is phenomenal.
Yes.
I've watched that
Yeah.
woman at a wrestling tournament. It's
Yeah.
it's truly a sight. Is this going to insult her?
No, she's a proponent of this. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good question. I didn't really clarify that. So she gave me all the statistics. She definitely is in favor of this. And this would kind of just ease some of that burden as far as it's placed on her. Even though, again, like she's
Yeah, she's
very well, well trained and well educated in what she does. But this would just allow kind of a little bit more of a peace of mind too. And she's dealing with some higher level things.
perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of some of my commentary on this. This list of things, generally, these are all you need to go to the emergency room. You need to get seen right now.
Mhm.
And so, because I'm trying to work through the rationale of the team doctor on the sidelines, because, on the one side, concussions, I've had a lot of concussions. For all those who've been wondering, am I currently concussed? I don't believe so, but that's probably debatable. That's the biggest fuzzy area, right, of evaluation and needing high level. And so for me, that goes to, we've got to have hugely solid concussion protocols, irrespective, because we're not going to have this team doctor when we're traveling on the road. We've got to be able to recognize the symptoms and signs and go, oh my, this person needs to go to the hospital right now, which I believe we have in place. And I believe and trust in the coaches. I put my own son in that situation. So, okay, now we're taking, that's the fuzzy. All the rest of these are pretty acute, and it's head nodding of, oh yeah, you're messed up. You need to go to the hospital right now.
Right.
So, and I'm going down this road to say, I'm trying to find the value that this is going to add. And quite honestly, going the other direction of, oh, well, that doesn't seem that bad. You could probably see your family doctor in the morning, and then it going the other direction where it is, a lacerated spleen or kidney, or, the kid wakes up and blood's coming out and things go the wrong way. So I know that sounds kind of funny and saying, I like the default that we have now. The default is erring on the side of caution and going and getting high level emergency medical evaluation that has the diagnostic equipment,
Mhm.
that has the expertise, because correct me if I'm wrong, this is somebody coming out of family medicine. They're not somebody who's a board certified ER doc, which those are two completely different sets of trainings that happen after graduation from medical school. So I'm at does this really get us to where we want to / need to be? And I have to be honest, I'm not all the way there that this isn't more than comfort. So I'm needing more convincing. I'm only one voice.
Okay.
So my question would be so football,
Mhm.
right? This is just for football?
This is,
Football?
yeah.
So are you seeing these kind of injuries in soccer too, or not as
Mm.
much?
Not as much, and yeah, we didn't have as many. I'm trying to think back from last year, but we had a couple isolated injuries in soccer last year. So definitely football. And I think this goes, we do see a lot of concussions too, and your cheerleading and your
Mhm.
as far as tumbling, and so they're all going to be there as well. So I think that's where, if you add on that piece as well, and just the fact that that's our largest attended event that we have at the high school, so by far. So you're talking thousands of people that are there. So why not err on the side of caution? Because now we have somebody. Hey, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And so
That was kind of one of my other questions.
Yeah.
Like, do you have people that come and say, hey, I'm a physician, I'm going to be here tonight? Or do you not really have that at all? Like, people don't want the liability of it probably.
yeah, I haven't had that. No.
Well, and that kind of goes to the liability question, which is, since this is a licensed physician and they're giving the medical advice, what is the knock
Under
on?
our agreement.
Under our agreement, what's the knock-on liability effect for the district? Because little Reese Chitwood takes a knock to his head. He goes over and sees the team doctor and goes, Dominus Omis, you seem good, run about. And then something tragic happens.
This would fall just under the same that we have for our athletic trainer with KU Med. So
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to what our current agreement does for us, new board. I don't know whether it creates honestly more or less liability for us as a district. And I'm not sure that you're the person to answer it. I'm just posing the quandary. This is part of our team building too, of, where that's at. So.
And I'll just add to that, as it stands now, you've got the trainer and you've got EMS that's on site, right? And so, I'm just trying, I'm in my
I
mind.
guess and I want to clarify what EMS, I guess with EMS, we have the fire department. So we have the fire department that's trained that way. We don't have an ambulance.
There's not an ambulance that sits down on the north end of the
There's
field?
the fire department.
It's that.
Yeah.
That pseudo fire
The
truck. right thing.
EMT,
It's kind of a halfway house.
it's not for transport.
It could be, but it is not. And there's a difference between the regular ambulance and what John, and it's not the same. And we looked into trying to get an ambulance through Johnson County for those, and there's just not enough. And so they couldn't, they said, we can't tell you that we're going to be able to have one at every home event. And so,
Okay,
so
that's fair enough, Clay. That kind of changes my whole perspective on things,
Right.
because I thought, what's this
if we
doctor
had an ambulance,
do other than just
be
help?
having this conversation.
Right. So my question for you then, really to make peace for myself is, what are the parents of the players? How do they feel about this? What's your personal opinion?
Yeah.
As athletic director on whether or not this is a good decision? And the reason I ask that is because it's only for home games.
Yeah.
So what makes it any less impactful for a home game if you're not also taking that doctor with you on the away games?
And as far as away travel, that just depends on really it's like up to the host. And so I feel like as the host, so you're taking that on for the visiting team to be able to, because like he could even help out on both sides. Like it's not like he's going to say that's an Ottawa player down we're not gonna, he's gonna still provide that care. So, and I think just for, as from my perspective, we're gaining that level of care that an additional support person to be able to help out Jamie and as far as her being able to do her athletic training and also, she's doing a lot, like you said already. And so I think it just kind of eases that burden of her being able to make sure that all the care is given and that focus can be for her as well. Like she can be taping ankles too, or doing other things. And because there's a lot of things going on at those events. As far as travel, that's just, I get, again, it's just kind of up to the host. I guess that's as we are the host, we're taking that on. And so as far as being able to provide a safe environment for our other team and for our team. And so I think that's kind of the perception out there as far as traveling and not taking them with us.
So are you asking are you supportive of this?
I'm definitely, yes.
And
I am in favor of this.
Well,
And I
and
feel like for
it's
the amount of money too that we're talking, I think it's an easy one as far as, because it is fuzzy. Like you're thinking fuzzy and it's like, well, $250 a game. That's not a bad deal to be able to make sure that, hey, we are covered. And just the fact that we had the 2 events, the lacerated kidney, that's scary. And that was the one that, I mean, we took good care of him and the kid healed and everything else and everything was taken care of. But it would have made me feel better if we had an MD as well there to be able to help out Jamie.
I think one of the reasons why I would support this too, like we had a personal situation. It was not at Spring Hill, but it was during COVID and our son was playing soccer. And there was not a physician, there was not even an athletic trainer, and he got a big gash under his eye. And we weren't there. The parents weren't allowed to be there.
Yep.
And so he got off the bus and took the Band-Aid off, and we ended up in a couple of ERs and spent over $1,000. That could have been if there would have been somebody there, I would have paid the $250 to have the the physician there. He maybe could even stitched it up right there. I don't know. But as a parent, that's a scary thing to have and it was a different circumstance and a different place. And I understand that. But even if it, I guess, if it prevented one thing from happening, I think it'd probably be worth it.
So I have a couple questions. On this list, well, first of all, does our current trainer travel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this doctor would not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
And she only travels for football games. She doesn't travel for any other activity. So
okay.
that, yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. Because then it is up to and even the hosts, like most schools will bring their own trainer to Spring Hill for just varsity football games only. But that's the only thing that they normally travel for.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a lot of assumed things that I take for assumptions.
Yeah. No, the 2023 where it has all the concussions, the ankle sprain, all of that. Of those, what, if the doctor was here, what wouldn't have had to be treated at an emergency room?
And some of that would have been, but I think he would have been able to diagnose some things a little faster as far as like with the kidney issue as well. Like that one could have been, I think, just like faster care. And also I think as far as kind of getting to the point that Sharon was making, as far as bouncing around from different urgent cares or what, and then maybe having to go to your MD to be able to get, I think all of them, I think listed on there, had to get a referral except for the high ankle sprain one. So like they had to get a referral from their MD and he could bypass that. So like you're talking Friday night, so then you're waiting until Monday to be able to see your MD and then you're waiting to get that. So they could speed up that process to be able to see somebody sooner on Monday.
And already have a referral.
Yeah,
And
right.
this is at no cost to our players or, I mean, whatever he sits with them, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Like nothing.
Yep.
Okay. And then can you tell me, so this is just for home games here in town. I had last year asked about having a trainer or something at our middle school.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing similar injuries at middle school level, especially with the new players, people that don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of the football game. Is this something that we could also utilize instead of a trainer? I know that the answer was there wasn't enough staff to have trainers at middle schools.
And we solved that this year. That should have, and again, I haven't scheduled it all out, but Scott Peavy has headed that for the middle schools. So that should be all scheduled and taken care of through KU they're doing PRN. So like it's not going to be like one standard trainer for all the middle schools because but they will have a trainer at all home middle school football games.
Oh, well, that's great. I hadn't seen that.
That was in the first contract.
Yes.
wasn't it?
Oh, okay. I
Here's
missed
the
that
first
one.
contract. Yeah.
No, it was in the first contract that we approved for this year.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is new.
I didn't see that at all. I am so
Yeah.
sorry. Well, that's
No,
great.
you're good.
news.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then that solves that question.
And,
Yep.
and let me clarify, Clay, am I correct in that what it is, when it comes to the middle schools, the main difference will be like, is it the trainer that will be secured for middle school football, and that will only be for middle school football, whereas our trainer that we have also has hours where they work with the kids, you know,
Right.
at certain times of the day to kind of see how they're progressing. That would not be available at it would just be like game, correct?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
the-
Just for those games only and wouldn't be in during the day to do any type of injury prevention or recovery.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. I feel like some of these injuries, as much as we'd want the doctor to be there, they just say, yes, cool, go to the emergency room. So I want to make sure we're spending our money properly.
Yeah.
It is very inexpensive, I do think. I just wonder the need for it. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I have some more questions maybe to ask
Yeah.
to
And
kind of think through.
And I think our athletic trainer would be one that says that she would really welcome that. You know, we have, we had a little over 100 football players last year. Not all of them are suiting up on Friday night, but you're still talking a large number of kids. And that's also, you know, as far as compared to all our other sports, there's like twice as many. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to try to tie a few of these themes together, which is, this is just for home varsity games.
Correct.
This isn't home JV games. This isn't home for ninth grade.
And she'll
games.
still work those games.
Yeah. Well, and I want to tell you what I think I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What I think I'm hearing is our trainers uncomfortable because there's a number of medical issues happening that are outside of her scope of practice that she can legally address. And I get that. And I totally understand that frustration. I'm kind of also going, because I like to get down the road of parity. I'm going down the road is we've got that level of need to be like, you need to go to the hospital. And that's not really her scope of practice to diagnose and say that. But as a district and as a school, we've got that pretty much starting 6th grade and up where kids can really legit hurt themselves. So again, this is, and I don't want to say it's an inconsequential amount of money, but we've got this issue kind of throughout, and we've got one entity in our umbrella that's benefiting from it. And maybe rightly so. Maybe the varsity kids are the ones hitting hard enough where they're the kids going, and my kid was the same way. I'm not hurt. I'll be fine. And I was the same way, broken fingers, whatever. And I'm fine. No, I wasn't fine. I needed to go to the hospital. Right. And so $250 a game to have somebody there that goes, no, Mr. Chitwood, you need to take your child to the emergency room. This is emergent, is what we're getting. Great. I think the question I'm asking is, I think that need exists more broadly.
Yeah.
Am I hearing that, or am I?
I'd still say there's still a big separation between varsity football games and the rest of our athletics that we play that our trainer feels more comfortable being able to handle those things and being able to work through them and as far as severity and as far as the number of injuries that are out there. So I feel like it's still and I agree with parity, and we try to be as equal as we can throughout everything. But I think it's just this one, there's a big enough gap that I felt like we need to be able to take some of that burden off her. Yeah.
Well, and on the agreement itself, Clay, if we're going to bring this back for a vote, there's an exhibit D and an exhibit E that has no information in there. And specifically, exhibit D is kind of the protocol for the trainer, which is basically the scope, right? The scope of purview, I think. And it'd be helpful to fully understand then, does having the doctor on the field kind of extend beyond what that person's purview or that scope protocol is? That would be exhibit D. And for the life of me, when I read it earlier on my computer at home, I found the reference to exhibit E. And for the life of me, I can't find it now, and I can't remember what the reference was for exhibit E. But it would just be really helpful for us to have the completed agreement, to review.
Okay.
Before you come to us and ask for a vote. And I really am interested to know, if we've got an exhibit D for the trainer, then what does exhibit D look like for the doctor? And I would assume it would be over and above whatever that scope or purview is for the trainer, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll check that out.
I don't want to make more work for you, but it's just,
No, that's all right.
where's exhibit E? Okay.
Okay, any other questions or discussions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on, 8.02, presentation of architectural contracts to provide architect, engineering, community engagement, facility assessment, and master planning services.
Yes, we have representatives from DLR tonight, again, to kind of review their architectural services contract, but also address specifically the facility assessment master planning services portion. Again, this is discussion tonight. We're not asking for action, but they will kind of walk you through the components of that, along with specifically outlining how they expect the facility assessment to work in terms of the work completion, the deliverable, and then also they may get into a little bit about the community engagement piece, but I'm going to kind of leave it up to them. And then Mr. Meek is here as well, to support anyway. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the DLR representative, Mr. Josh Earhart.
Thank you. And Tim, did I steal your fire here? All right. All right. Josh Earhart, DLR Group, Spring Hill resident, seen him before, but I also have a special friend right here, Mr. Scott Pasha. He's a principal architect at DLR Group. He's been with us for about 10 years now and leads nationally our facilities master planning group. But locally, he has a lot of presence. And we've compared notes before the meeting. But very high level, I wanted to bring forth to you the contracts agreement for bond visioning and planning services, which includes community engagement as well. You had the contract before you about a month ago, and after some back and forth, we made some changes. But one of the bigger changes that we made that you'd probably want to be aware of is originally we asked for 3 tries to pass a bond attempt. And after some back and forth with district staff and our team, we decided probably after 2 tries that the board of any sorts, whether it's you all or anyone, it's not going to be very happy with us after 2 failed attempts. So we reduced that down to 2 attempts, and we said, let's just get it done in 1 attempt. And if we need to, we'll get there. So we changed that from a 3 down to 2 attempts. That was one of the large changes. Let me get down to, we also included a schedule, which I know you all have studied. And after some back and forth with district staff and talking about the best plan of attack, it is going to be an aggressive schedule to get to our bond language by the end of the year. But we're going to start off with that fairly quickly here, starting at the beginning of September with our first. I can't multitask. Just don't watch the screen. So I know we start at the beginning of September, we have 3 meetings, and then we're going to pause in the middle of November to have a checkpoint where we look at the draft deliverable of the facilities master plan. And I'll have Scott speak to that a little bit more detail here in a minute, once I find the schedule.
Are you looking for page 14?
No. We had a schedule. Well. No.
Good evening. While Josh is looking for that, I'll step in here real quick
Thanks, Scott.
and talk a little bit about the thought working with your team to kind of get the facility plan going immediately. So we can use that to inform any of the language that we would use for the bond. So really that November timeframe was the milestone that we were targeting. The team has already started to work with your group to kind of review some of the facility assessment work that your staff has already done. Our team would then step in, do a validation, and use that to inform some of the planning work. But what we had envisioned is really a 4-phase process for the facilities plan, starting with the discovery phase, which would include that facility assessment work. We would move into an envision phase, which would be a couple workshops around kind of the future of learning, how that impacts potentially the district, what future ready spaces look like as we look 10 years into the future. Because every facilities plan should kind of look into the horizon to be strategic about how that impacts the district. We'd be looking at some capacity analysis as well as enrollment trends. And those would be some of the key components that would inform the data points and inform the development of the plan. There would be several engagement points along the way. We often will work with the district to identify the kind of key steering committee groups, often represented by community, educators, students, business partners as that relates to additional programming. So we form the steering committee group, and they will be that consistent entity that kind of prioritizes and informs decisions along the way. Based on some of that dialogue, we will then identify key community meetings or conversations, town halls that we would like to have as we start to kind of refine some of those drafts and recommendations for the plan.
I found the schedule in my notes. So we do have 6 workshops identified, and we'll have to follow up and get this to you in another fashion here. But we do have a schedule identified. First workshop would be on September 10th, followed up by a September 24th workshop and so forth. Workshop number 3 would be on October 8th. Again, November 5th, and then workshop 5 would be on November 12th, and then workshop 6 would be on November 19th. But again, we'll follow up with these dates and get them to you.
Josh, are workshops, is that where the community gets involved?
Yeah, so
community engagement and
yes, so we'll have community stakeholders, we'll have staff members, and then we'll have architects and engineers on staff. These are usually about 90-minute workshops where we get together, start to collect data, mine that data on various topics. We'll take it back to our workshop, start to mine that and come back and present it. And we'll have a follow-up after these workshops here, and you'll see this in the schedule. About a week after, plus or minus, that we'll have a follow-up with the staff. So we'll have a workshop with the community, and about a week later, we'll meet with staff and their steering committee, be like, this is what we heard. Is this what you heard? Make sure we're all on the same page moving forward, because it is a very aggressive schedule. We're looking to, as Scott was saying, develop a draft of this facility master plan by November, which will in essence help guide that final bond proposal in December when we have to turn in bond language.
You just answered my second question, so thank you. That's good.
So September 10th does seem like pretty quick because we really haven't even formed this committee yet. You've been working on, right? Bringing names together and stuff, but not really formed it.
Yeah, correct. I mean, everything's kind of hinged on, again, I haven't gotten too far ahead because we haven't, till the contract gets approved, but we have been working with DLR to try to identify a schedule that if the contract were to be approved sometime in the near future, how that community engagement meetings could kick off. That's how we came up with the early September schedule to start. And then I have also been have asked our principals to kind of be coming up with, some individuals that they would want that would be good to be a part of this steering group that would come together to provide, that feedback. And we're just kind of saying, but didn't want to get too far ahead because again, everything, even the schedule that DLR proposed is very contingent eventually upon, getting approval from the Board of Education.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but September 10th is less than a month away. And then in November, they're like 3 weeks in a row and they're all Tuesday nights. So, if that's just a draft, maybe, and I don't know. It just seems like it'd be pretty rushed to get a group to commit to all of these, that maybe don't even know they're part of this thing yet.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, Josh, we can structure it in a couple different ways. We'll initiate a survey at the very beginning that we can work with the district team to identify how far that's broadcasted, to just ask some generalized questions about where the district is, what are some potential needs, wants, wishes, to kind of get the landscape down. Some of the early workshops, quite honestly, are often working with staff first to get some of that big visioning out there. And then we'll roll in the community at large to validate some of those ideas, see what are we missing, get a feel for, does that resonate with the community? So you're correct, getting that key steering committee pulled together early on they'll be the consistent link throughout. But if there's concern about kind of bringing the community in too soon, we can stagger that a little bit to allow us to do some, research behind the scenes, get some of the educators, leadership kind of ramped up to go through that process.
Well, I think the community needs to be involved as soon as possible, but just that they're prepared. I mean, Josh and I were part of a steering committee that wasn't very well thought out and it didn't go very well.
Right.
So, the other thing that I just wanted to ask and maybe clarify, in the past, the board has not been a part of these because we need to be objective when this committee comes and so that we're not a part of all the weeds of the committees, but we see the consensus and the amalgamation of all the information at the end. Is that kind of what your thoughts are again, or?
Well, that's entirely your decision. We've worked with other districts where they'll have a board member or two on there before. We're working with another district right now that has a board member on it. Just to report back to the board on how the visioning sessions are going. But that's completely your call. I know in the past we haven't, but.
Sharon, I think you raise a valid concern, and it's a concern of mine as well, because, it feels like we're going to probably kick this one down another 2 weeks. So really you've compressed that 4-week period before September 10th now down to 2 weeks, right? And so I'm just, to us as an entity, I think the challenge for us is to try and get this thing across the finish line so that things can get started, because if we're going to kick the can every 2 weeks, it's going to be, it's frustrating, but we've got to get going.
Yeah.
This is all for May 2025 bond vote.
And you're looking probably at trying to be done before the holidays, like with the bulk of the meetings and stuff, so that.
Right. And
because
we looked
otherwise
at
you
if we
get
push it down to September, let's say, this time next year, then we have until April to get this.
Yeah. I mean, I understand I just
Right.
don't want it to be like we're rush this whole thing in here and,
Sure.
So.
I'll add to, we've been working with Tim and Kylie for the past month on collecting and mining a lot of data regarding the facility self-assessment, and we'll continue to do that. just to do what we can to try to stay ahead.
Mhm. Okay. So I think that's the one question that I may not understand the process as well. I thought our, like facilities needs assessment, if I'm saying that right, kind of came first. We said this is what we need at each facility, at each place, but if we're, I mean, that will be done within a month, is what you're saying to me. In time for us to meet with the communities and say, here's where our needs are. You help us prioritize. Is that what I'm hearing?
So we're going to be running on parallel in November. We'll have a draft of the facilities master plan that would inform the bond. And at that point, we're basically going to have to pause and check to make sure that what we're gathering on the facilities master plan is indeed what we're getting in response to the bond as well, if that makes sense. It's going to be really tight. We're running on parallels, and that's the challenge of this, is that we are running on parallels, and that's where we have this long range right here, draft deliverable, because we need to know that what we're proposing in this long range plan, is it supported by what we're going to be talking about on the following meeting?
So what will we, I know this is a weird question. I feel like we're giving the kids and saying, what do you want to eat? And then later saying, actually, here's the menu. What's on the menu?
Yeah.
So we're asking them dream or dream big, whatever you want. And then we're saying, wait a minute, but actually these are our needs. So how will we align that when you get all the data together? So you're going to take what everyone wants to do from our community and say, well, this is what we need, and just
Yeah, we'll eventually too start to talk about the money side of it. So when everyone starts to reach for the stars on everything they want, and then we start to talk about the money side of it, and we say, well, this is what this will afford you. What are then we start to get into priorities. Do we really need a natatorium, or do we need a 6, elementary school? Those are the conversations that we'll have. With that, does that answer your question?
sort of, I'm concerned that if we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, we're asking the community what they want, without giving them a list of our needs. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I think is a little confusing is the wants and the needs. And there's a couple of different pockets of needs as far as I see it. One of the needs are the physical needs of the building that we have, that we need a roof on this building. We need HVAC on this building. The other ones are physical needs, but they're not dealing with maintenance items and stuff like that. They're physical needs because we're too crowded at this building and we need to add space there. So there's a couple of things. Right now, we're working really heavily with Josh and their team on the physical needs of the buildings, like roofs, HVAC, anything like that. And that's what we're hitting really hard on right now. And we got to get that list together so we can show the need out there first. And then it'll come back. And when we've already got a list, and we'll work with them continually on, this is a list of some of the things that will help. And that's where the community really helps us to decide. And okay, we can throw out several things. I mean, I'm going to throw a couple things out just to get conversation or whatever. We can build a freshman center. We can build a CTE building. We can expand the high school to deal with overcrowding at the high school. Those are 3 options. But what one really does the community see the best? I mean, we can build a brand new high school as well, but when you see the dollar figures, we really can't build a brand new high school.
Sure. And I think I'm getting it confused as you, I think we went through the facilities needs assessment, and I think I'm getting that confused with the needs of our district. So not just like maintenance,
Yeah.
but like this school needs new library books. I don't think that's a need, but let's say that's what it was. And we identified that. We're not giving them here's all the needs, help us prioritize. We're telling them we have a growth issue. You tell us what you think the solution could be. Is that
As part of it,
okay?
as part of it. The other part will be the facility needs as far as, okay, because a roof is more than, yes, we could pay for a roof on certain buildings out of capital outlay. But if we're doing HVAC work and roofs on that building, it's probably more than our capital outlay fund can support. So that becomes a bond issue item. So, okay, if we need, I'm just throwing a number out here, if we need $2 million for that, Doug doesn't feel like he has the $2 million in capital outlay that we can spend on that item. And it's probably gonna be more than 2 million to do all roofs and HVAC on a building or two, by far, but just throwing numbers out there. Then we come back and say, this is a project we need bond to do and share that with the community. The community says, well, we think you can keep patching that roof. We don't mind a little indoor sprinkler system for our kids in those rooms. Their kids probably aren't going to that building, but,
Right.
when they say that.
It really helps determine the dollar amount.
Mhm.
So like so Tim and his crew are gonna come up with like 15 million in maintenance work, right? And so then as the community's talking, they might dream up 120 million, but we always need to add this 15 million for the work. And so then the community starts to go, oh, well, gosh, I can't spend 135 million. And then they start chipping it back. And that's kind of,
Mhm.
it always keeps an allotted amount of money for that.
Yeah.
And we do also, in this, we're prioritizing those things as well. I mean, we know that the highest need in the district might be a roof on a building, and the HVAC on a building or whatever. We know those things are much higher than needing new windows on a building. The windows may not look the best or something like that, but the roof is way more important than some trim or whatever on the building, or painting a building, or, completely recarpeting a building, which, usually most of that minor stuff is done out of capital outlay, but.
Sure. So, and I apologize. I think that I was thinking the building needs assessments and I'm messing up the terminology, but I was thinking master planning. So yeah, the master plan. I thought that was like all the needs of the community, including growth, including just maintenance. So I understand. I think I'm just confused what comes first, but you take suggestions and then you identify it and prioritize from there. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. I mean, I think of it as kind of building blocks, right? You've got your physical condition needs. You have your educational learning environment needs, which may support program, it may support SPED, it may support a whole slew of other items. Then you have capacity and growth needs. So if you take those three and you start to have dialogue, visioning around those, your 10-year plan is really targeting that. So this bond cycle may only address a handful of those, but the plan should look down the road to say, okay, the next bond cycle is targeting this, the next bond cycle, so it's that strategic roadmap to get you all of the things, the wants and desires of the students in the community.
Perfect. Okay. And so and I just want to make sure we're doing that at the same time, the community suggestions and then kind of the list. And then you guys come together and say, here's the feedback we've gotten, everything. And that's where we go from there.
Yeah, and this list we're working on right now with Tim and Kylie, and it identifies, is this a 2025 project, 2030 or 2035? We go that far out. So we're identifying roughly a timeline when these need to happen. So obviously the 2025 bucket we're looking at, that's going to have an impact on this bond. So we need to start, the district's going to be prioritizing along with the community of what all can we get all this in the 2025 bond? Does some of it have to go down to a 2030 bond, let's say? So we're already starting to associate a timeline with these facility improvements, if you will.
Yeah, well, an example, we work with a lot of districts that you've got your list of condition needs. You've got roofs, you've got air conditioning, you've got lockers, you've got ceiling, lights, painting, a whole slew of things. Working with the community and the district to prioritize, they may choose to push lockers and a few other things to a next bond cycle so they can put a maker space in, or they could put some sort of collaboration spaces within some of the schools. So it's kind of that prioritization balance of what happens, how does the community view, what are the priorities that we need immediately? Does that help?
It does. I think my question just came back. How will they know we need lockers if we don't have, will they know that during these meetings? Like, hey, here's the needs.
Yeah, I think the condition part of it is pretty easy to identify.
Okay.
With Tim's team and the work that our firm has done, we've got that pretty well documented. There's some validation that needs to happen, but that's kind of you don't have to have much engagement around that, right? We can go out and look at the site, see what's needed. But that list can be prevalent in the conversations to say, here's your physical building needs. Here are some other thoughts or maybe desires that we should talk about.
Yeah, and that will normally be shared. It'll be a shared document. I will work very hard, though, that if I see somebody say, well, we really would rather have a statue of Dr. Luttrell in front of in front of the middle school over here, I'm gonna say, I don't think he's the right guy to have a statue of there tonight. Let's look, instead of somebody's pet project, sometimes those things happen in the meeting. Somebody has a project that they would rather see, they would rather see a new playground. Well, their playground isn't that old. It's only 10 years old, but yes, somebody else got a newer playground. So yours still is a 5-year project. It's not a immediate thing, just so that, you can have right now. We will work very hard with the committee to make sure they understand what our priorities are.
Yeah. So Tim, this is maybe a question for you, because Scott, you had mentioned, like, you look at the physical needs of the actual building structures, and then the programming needs, and then the capacity growth needs. But in the past, we've always kind of gone back and looked at like parity with the older buildings and the newer buildings, and how do we, kind of let everybody win in this deal kind of thing. Is that more determined by this building needs assessment, or is that something that's kind of another little facet of the 3 turning to 4 things that you would consider?
It can be, because number one, we are looking to pass a bond issue, and sometimes it's like, to me, passing a bond issue can be like what you see going on when you turn on your TV and you watch the Congress and people like that. Sometimes somebody has to give a little bit in order for the other person to gain a little bit or whatever. We've got to, if we make it all about one area of the district and completely leave out another area of the district, if there's truly a need there, I'm one of those guys that if it's not a need at this point, but can we put it on for the 5-year and show them in the plan, in their strategic, in our plan, not a strategic plan, looking at the long plan, our long range plan, that yes, this is definitely a need, but it's 5 years out, not immediate, and that's where sometimes, we've got to really share with them when this can happen. Not, yes, we're aware of this is a need, but at the present time, we're not ready to do it because it's not an immediate need. People aren't going to suffer. The education process isn't going to suffer if we don't do this one in 2025. It can be pushed to 2030, but it is out in front, and we've put it out there as a very high need, probably in 2030. So people can see that.
So I have a question. Who, can I ask who leads these community engagement sessions?
Me.
Awesome. And do we have staff there? Is it just community? What does that look like?
So, yeah, I believe Dr. Luttrell has been putting together a list. We're talking about, a lot of times it's a staff from each one of the schools. It can be a parent representative from each one of the schools. Just really around, just representation of every level of, yeah.
Is it, and that's the steering committee, but then you do big town halls so that everyone can come and give input. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we get kind of a draft or consensus or some ideas we want to vet with the larger community, we'll issue some town halls, gallery walks, surveys, whatever, works best with your district to have that communication, open communication. And we will facilitate that.
Perfect. And is that what these community meetings are, or are these the steering committee?
The workshops.
The workshops would be the townhouse. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Everybody noticed I stayed quiet the whole time.
All right.
Everybody was doing such an awesome
I
job.
was anticipating the.
Well, I'm going to kind of restate, I think, a couple of things that I think we've said out loud, which is this is kind of like going to Disney World, right? I'm going to Disney World someday. Well, when someday? Well, someday. You're never going to go see that little black rat until you have a plan to get there. And that's what we're finally acknowledging is, we're going to a place where, I know, we're going to a place where we're developing a strategic long-term plan to ensure parity at our facilities. So we have as comparable as we can get it, teaching environments, physical environments, resources, et cetera. That's one component of this, right? Because we've got what I'm affectionately calling our legacy buildings. You know, we have 4 facilities that are getting longer in the tooth rather than our newer state-of-the-art facilities. So that's one component, right? So we've said we're going to at least look at how to put together a plan to get there so we can go see them, right? We're going to go see that mouse. The next component is, so you're working from our RSP reports on enrollments, on our growth, or are you reinventing the wheel of what our facility needs are for enrollment?
So with the RSP, we look at the RSP for growth, and the feeder model that we currently have set up for the district is based off of Rob's model. We'll continue to use that. We've had great success with it. Yeah, what was the second part of the question then, rolling into that?
Yeah, it was just, are you using his stuff or are you reinventing the
So
wheel?
we had that prototype already set up with the 529 student capacity elementary schools feeding into that middle school, the 529 capacity, 2 middle schools per high school. We're at 3 middle schools right now, 1 elementary short to feed that middle school, and then in middle school and 2 other elementary short to support another high school. So we still feel confident in that big grand system, but we will use Rob's numbers to support that.
Are you going to use facility information? This is way far down in the weeds and I don't need an actual answer. Are you going to use actual facility level data? And so I'll pick out like She's, right? She's has teachers, hot bunking classrooms, specials or having to go from classroom to classroom. Whereas in our other facilities, that isn't a thing. When we talk about that needs and normalizing, right? Are our facilities meeting the needs of that sub-district area?
So
And creating a parity in all those important components, teachers having classrooms, classroom size parity, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so we'll review all program and capacity studies within each building.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So I think we beat most of the horse, so I can go to a different topic within this, which is one of the ones that I was having an offline, which is you do some federal government contracts currently, coming from the federal world. We use a system called E-Verify, and that E-Verify system essentially says you as the contractor will ensure that, all of your employees are permitted to work in the United States and are going to comply with that and go forth. I'm not necessarily saying that we absolutely have to do this as part of it. I'll back up because I explained that too quickly. I can see the looks in their face. So E-Verify is a system. So, we'll pick me. Chipman Enterprises is going to hire employees and I've got a contract. I'm obligated by law to make sure every one of my employees has the right to work in the United States of America. Full stop. That is the law of the land. E-Verify is a system that contractors can sign up to say, oh, little Jonathan Chitwood signed up. He gave his socials, et cetera, et cetera. It goes, they submit that to E-Verify and E-Verify goes, yep, this is a valid person to work. You are complying with the law. So it is a positive affirmation of complying with employment law. That's all it is. Lots of government entities do this from the federal level down to the state level. I'm of the position that this is something that everybody should be doing, that all of their employees do in fact have the right to work in the United States. And so if that is something you are doing, I'm the one person saying, hey, can we toss that in there that we do E-Verify? So
I've got it written down. I'm going to chase that down. It's new to me. So, but like
Yeah.
we were talking about, I'm sure
and I'm really just using this because we can't talk to each other outside of this. I'm really using this as an introduction to the board. So I have no intentions of holding this agreement up.
Well, let me Let me talk to that real quick though, John, so it might help to shed a little light with some of the other people. DLR would not be the ones necessarily doing that. That would come from our construction manager. So the construction manager, I mean, obviously we can ask DLR to be E-verified too, to make sure all their employees are. But the construction manager, since we hold the contracts, under the state of Kansas law, the only entity in the state of Kansas is Secretary of State's contracts that they put out. That is the only one in Kansas that's required to do that. That doesn't mean they're the only ones that can do that or should do that. But the construction manager could do that. And I've talked to a couple of them today even about it. And they said they don't do it in Kansas generally. They have to do it in Missouri because by Missouri statute, they have to do it. So it's not hard to put into the structure to do it. So if that would be the way the board would want us to do it, it'd be an easy thing to put in later. So, you know. So.
Yeah, and it's obviously up to the will of the board. I just
Yeah.
wanted to use this as a springboard to start the conversation.
Sorry.
Closing time.
Oops, wrong one, Phil. Sorry. Did I put the wrong?
All right. Well, any other questions, discussions for Tiela or Mr. Meek? All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for coming. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
So is the plan to bring this back at the next meeting or?
Yes, the plan would be to bring it back for action, preferably at the August 26th meeting. And if you do have, the board has any questions or information you would like for us to collect in the next few days, we can make sure, but just if you would send that please to Rachel and she'll get the week forward that DLR to make sure we can get.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. All right. So moving on, 8.03, 2024 summer facility projects update.
Good evening. It has been a very busy summer. We've done a lot of projects and I will go through these here now with you. Please stop me if you have any questions as I go through this.
How did you lose your hair during these projects? Oh,
I did.
Well, and I just want to know, is that a spray on tan or have you actually been outside?
I've actually been outside. Truth be told, I'm a working supervisor, so.
Just so we cover it, use sunscreen. We endorse preventing skin cancer.
All right, thank you. Okay, so start out here at the Early Childhood Center. Pretty straightforward here. We did some classroom build outs for rooms 116 and 117, and we also carpeted 119 and 120. So we put carpet in those rooms, and then in room 116 and 117, we added furniture in there, and they've got teachers in those rooms, and they'll be expected to have students in there holding class. So rooms 119 and 120, that's for future growth. They're carpeted now. We'll have to get furniture for them if we do decide to go into those spaces. So they're ready to go from that standpoint. Lighting upgrades in hallway. We upgraded all the lighting in the hallway. We removed the old lighting. It was the old T8 fluorescent bulbs. We removed that, put LED lighting in. It's much brighter, more energy efficient, and it actually looks really nice. We will probably next summer start planning on going into some of the classrooms or maybe all of them that are doing class and start to upgrade that lighting in there as well. And then in the gymnasium, we upgraded the lighting in that space as well. Removed the old lighting, new lighting's LED, again, more energy efficient. It can be dimmed and controlled. We actually have a wrestling mat light there in the middle for Tucker and his program he has. So when they do the championship matches, they can just light up the center of the mat. It used to be we'd hang a light from the middle of the rafters and it would hang down. This way we don't have to do any of that. It's just hit a button and the light will come on and light up the middle of the mat. So
Kylie, on that photo real quick, you didn't do anything to the floor, right? That's just all lighting.
no, we did. We actually refinished that.
Okay, all right.
But that was before summer. We were able to get in there before
Okay.
summer was in. But yeah, that'd been pretty spectacular if it turned the floor white like that with just lights. But no, that is the floor being refinished as well. So And then the parking lot, we ended up seal coating and striping the parking lot there. They had a little bit of product left over and we ended up going over into the bigger parking lot space. You might see that it's kind of cut off. So I've had a couple questions. Why did they go back there and do a part of that and not the whole thing? Well, they had a little bit of extra seal coat left and they ended up going over there and doing a portion of it. Well,
Baseball diamonds.
yeah, well, it's on the other side, so it's, yeah. And we'll end up doing the other part of it close to the baseball diamonds probably next summer. So anyway,
On this, hold on, I have one question. On the screen here, there's like a discoloration on the, close to the crosswalk on the bottom left.
yep,
What
that's
is that?
just runoff from water.
So it's not any,
It's probably run off from the playground over at Cheese.
Probably, it probably could be. Actually.
I had a quick question on that, or a couple. This, like the lights and the carpet, that was all original replacement, right? That was, okay, yeah,
It was.
at early childhood.
Yep.
When they renovated the building.
Yeah. And the next thing was, do the fire lanes have to be red? Cause I drove past there and they had yellow on the fire lanes and that was literally just a question I had.
I don't know what the code is, but they started to do them red and then they changed them to yellow. And so we followed suit, like at Spring Hill High School, they were red and we changed them to yellow.
And that's, okay, I literally don't know. I'm just asking the question.
They can be either one.
They can be either one. Okay, cause I know we have the signage. I just, different schools have different things.
Yep.
Now I know. Thank you.
And then also the speed bumps there, you can see on the east side parking lot, we painted those yellow so people are aware, but that's what those are over there. Got a few speeders last year and decided it's probably a good idea to put those up that keep people from going so fast, so.
Kylie, real quick, a question for you on the LED lighting.
Yes.
Yeah, any kind of study that shows what the ROI on swapping those out as far as cost savings over electric cost savings over the cost of swapping them out? And the only reason I ask is because this might be something for us to really consider on the bond thing to maybe accelerate instead of doing a classroom at a time or a hallway at a time. It may make sense to do everything.
I can get it easily.
Okay, I'm just
But I
curious.
never questioned it because it's such old.
Of course.
Like, I know it's gonna get a really good ROI.
Those new fixtures aren't that much more expensive than the ballast we have to replace, are they? I mean,
They're
it's,
not.
it's almost cheaper just to.
It
Okay.
is.
Okay,
Because
I
there's
just-
like,
Yeah.
obsolete. They stopped making them really, those old electronic.
Yeah, they're
ballasts.
they're getting more expensive, not
More
less expensive.
Yeah, because you just can't get them. They're not making them anymore, so. And truth be told, I'd like to do a lot more LED lighting throughout these schools, and I'm gonna be meeting with a company here that can promise you they'll do X amount of fixtures and they'll save you X amount of dollars in energy savings. And so I'm looking into that, doing it a larger portion of buildings rather than doing it piecemeal like we've been doing. So we'll see what that turns out. Okay, Prairie Creek Elementary School parking lot pavement project. It went well, actually, considering how the high school went. Everything they've done on it is what the engineers said they do, and it looks really well. Yep, so it turned out great. And then we've got this concrete pad here for outdoor lunch. It looks really nice too. If you haven't seen it, stop out there and look at it.
did we use the same contractor for the high school in Prairie Creek? For the asphalt?
Yes. Yep. And then they also did something I didn't have on here, and I apologize. They did a lot of concrete repairs around the school as well. Basically the whole front entryway has been reconcreted. There's several other areas around the school that they.
And that was primarily salt related, right? The deterioration on that concrete at the entrance.
I believe so,
Yeah.
yes.
And the only other thing I'll add there too is, it really is a detraction from the beautiful picnic area, the mulch and the old playground. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yep. And then Prairie Creek Elementary, we re-epoxied all the restrooms and the pods. It may be hard to see in the picture, but the flakes that are put in the epoxy are the school color, so it looks really nice. Yeah, turned out really good, so. On the Spring Hill Elementary School, classroom carpet replacements, we've got all those rooms there replaced. The 3-pod area carpets were replaced. You may be able to see in the picture there that the colors coordinate with the fascia there on the sheetrock. So the orange is in there and each pod is correlated with the color, so it really matches well with the design of the pod. And then we did LED lighting upgrades in rooms 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Again, that was the original lighting. The T8 old fluorescent bulbs were replaced, all new fixture, much more brighter, energy efficient, and they are dimmable. So what we have left in that school is to do the kindergarten pod classrooms and then some of those interior classrooms that are out just outside the library. And we would have that whole school retrofitted with LEDs. So hopefully we can get that all done next summer. So
I want to tease out something you just said. It's dimmable. Are we putting dimmers in all the classrooms when we're putting this stuff in?
these, yes.
Oh, that's so awesome. They've got to love that. That is awesome.
And I'll do the same at everywhere we do it, we're gonna do them dimmable because that's what all of our newer schools have, and it's a feature the teachers.
No,
really
that's
like.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so. And then Spring Hill Elementary School playground, you'll see there's the old photo of the playground, and then that middle one is the new playground set. And then that last photo there, I took my kids out there while I was doing a little bit of work around there and had them play on it, and they gave it thumbs up. They said it was awesome and they loved it and they wished they had that at their school. So
My little one
we have
gave us.
two happy campers.
Ellie.
Oh,
She was
really?
a big fan. The
Yes.
laugh thing though, I want to take an over under on how long until the teachers egg that thing.
Yes, the giggle box.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It
until
is.
doesn't stop.
I don't know what happened. It just broke. The batteries ran out.
I do want to point out the way that this was laid out and to keep this level going all the way through, there is a slight drop off. Can you see that on there? Yeah. There's a slight drop off. It's about 10 to 12 inches that comes off, and we plan to put some bollards there that will be posts with maybe a ribbon across there just to warn the kids that are out there playing that they can't run and off there because it's somewhat of a drop off. There's some fear there that they might face plant off that or something like that. So that's kind of our solution for that there.
Kylie, can you help me understand where that is on this?
Yes. Can you see the mouse
Oh,
on there?
yeah,
It's,
Along the sidewalk?
yeah, it's
And that's
along the sidewalk.
12
going up
inches.
About right there. Yeah. Yeah. And
There's
12.
a grade there. It goes basically from at that top that he was pointing to, it's basically zero entry, so it's flat. And it follows the slope and for the water, but yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm one of the ones who raised the concern that we keep an eye on that. And,
Yes.
and if we need to go back and readdress the flat surface.
Okay. Yep.
Because I had some concerns.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. On to Timber Sage Elementary School, we seal coated that parking lot as well, similar to Early Childhood Center, seal coated, striped. It looks really nice, fresh looking. And then Wolf Creek Elementary School, we carpeted 5 pods. We did 1 pod last summer. Elizabeth Cooper wanted to give it a try, that texture of that carpet and how it looked, and she really liked it. So we ended up doing the other 5 pod carpets this summer. And again, you can't see it in the picture, but the carpet, they got little strands of color in there that correlate to the pod, to the colors of the pod. So it goes together well. And then Spring Hill Middle School, a lot of carpet replacements there. We essentially did the whole 500 hall carpet replacements. We also did the choir and band room, and we did the library carpet as well. All turned out real nice. No big issues with that. And then we refinished the girls' locker rooms. That is a powder coated purple. If you don't know what they were before, they were like a white creamy color, looked really old and just really freshened it up. So
Ellie, the curtain you pulled out of there, how old was that? How old was the curtain that was pulled?
95.
So, maybe
Yeah.
It's the same carpet you put in now. 25,
Well,
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 35.
So, yeah.
So, April, you were a student.
I said ancient over here, and I've been immediately corrected that 1995 or 7 is not ancient. So I apologize. But I have kind of a follow-on question to we've had this discussion about future planning and facility needs. The carpet that's going in, what's the manufacturer recommendation of, hey, this carpet should last you 15 years, 20 years?
I
Not
honestly,
until we get back around to it.
I think it depends, really. It's on the wear and tear. I mean, you could have an area that's getting more traffic than another one and it needs a replace sooner, like hallways and things like that. I don't know. I could look at that up, what the manufacturer recommendation is, but
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I know it's going to be more than a decade or whatever.
yeah.
I'm just,
absolutely. Yeah.
Most of this carpet uglied out more than it did.
and then more out.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really a thing in the carpet business is the carpet, what they call uglies out because it just gets old and just not necessarily dirty, but a little bit dingier and not as bright and vibrant. So,
Yep.
and that's why we went back with the same type of carpet.
Type, yeah.
Because we get such long.
Well, you went back with ugly carpet? Is that what you just said? Okay, I just was confirming.
So, and that basically completes all the carpet and flooring replacements throughout that whole school, with exception to the auditorium. And we did that, I think it's been about 3 years. We've got that all replaced in the last 3 years, so. Much needed, it's finished. And then here at Spring Hill Middle School, again, we outdoor learning area. Middle school students enrolled in the STEM class worked on this to develop this outdoor learning space. They worked with DLR Group. The picture there on the left is what they've come up with, and then the photo there on the right is what's there now. So looks really nice, pretty space. We need to still do, why I say the job's complete, we're gonna do some landscaping up there, take those bushes out and put some horn beams in, which are a tall, narrow tree, and some other native grasses. So I believe we have a board meeting coming up there in the future, so probably be a good opportunity for everybody to go out there and look at it. See it in person. So. And then Spring Hill High School, Tim Meek did the presentation at the last board meeting about all the issues we've had out there. A lot of full depth repairs, and there's more that need to be done. It's something we'll have to kick the can down the road and do next summer in certain areas, but I put job complete with a couple asterisks there that we did what we approved through the change orders, but there's gonna be more work we'll have to do there next summer. So.
Can I make some comments on this project?
Yes.
Although it looks really nice and I think it's better than it was, I'm a little disappointed in the some of the quality of what's happening there. And I said this multiple times to different people, but I feel like for over $1 million, it should look really clean. And there's crumblies everywhere. There's asphalt on some of our concrete work. There's still holes and divots that are new that There's some drainage issues that I saw the other day. I'm really disappointed in what this looks like right now. And I'm hoping that some of this was addressed during a final inspection and maybe it's complete, but there's still some things coming.
There
I mean,
is.
Okay.
I met with the engineer, Gary out there, and there's some things they still need to fix up there, like you've suggested. I'm not aware of the drainage things yet. I don't
I took
know
some
where's that
pictures.
at. Oh, okay, well, if you could share those with Dr. Luttrell, I'd love to see them.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, you're right. There is some cleanup that still needs to be done on the edges and some things, and we'll address that. So.
So, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just so it's said out loud, and this isn't with you, but you know, these folks got out over their skis and had some problems and didn't stop the job earlier. And I'm disappointed they didn't come back and get with you earlier to say, oh, no, you've got bigger problems. Let's not peel back the rest of this quite yet. And, you know, got us in this place. And maybe I misunderstood the situation, but that's kind of the way it seemed to me. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here. They opened up a lot more asphalt and found problems and kept opening asphalt. And am I reading that situation correct?
Well, I don't know, with their trucks coming through there, I think that's how it got discovered, to be honest, when you have those big, large tandem trucks driving through there and more areas being damaged. And I'm not saying it was damaged because of the large trucks, but if you're
Well,
driving heavy
some of
stuff
it
over-
absolutely was. I mean, they were, you know, they were running tandems, right? Bringing in materials, so they were running 90,000.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it, we all know it. So, but, you know, staying within the budget on the scope of work is important and they seem to really blow past that. And again, maybe my read's wrong, but
Agreed.
okay.
On a positive note, I just want to commend you and your staff because, I mean, Prairie Creek's 17 years old. Is that right? I mean, that building still looks really new when you walk in the high school. I think it was mentioned today from the stage that, you know, you walk in and I think maybe Dr. Robinson mentioned you see the floors, how great they look. I mean, our buildings really look really nice. When we go tour some other facilities and stuff sometimes, I mean, we do a really good job. You guys do a really good job. So thank you for all you've done in these projects for the most part. I mean, the Spring Hill Middle School just has a totally different feel when you walk in. It's so warm and the sound and everything is just amazing. So I'm really proud of all the work that you guys have done to keep our facilities looking really nice.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, Spring Hill High School, we upgraded the gym lighting there as well. It's the same lighting fixtures as we have at Early Childhood Center. Again, it's much brighter and you can see, I took some pictures of just the center area of the wrestling mat lit up, what that looks like. And then some other features, we can turn all the lights off and just shine the lights on the flag as they drop it if they're doing the national anthem. Pretty cool feature. Again, it looks really nice. It's much brighter in there and Clay's tickled pink about it. So he's happy as all get out. So. And then Forest Spring Middle School here. If you like to talk about it, track equipment storage building. This was taken last week. This photo was, they pretty much got all the masonry done at this point. The trusses and roof material will be delivered August 12th through August 16th, and then termite control August 15th through the 19th. And then they'll start doing trusses and roofing to be installed August 16th through August 23rd. And then they'll finish up some things like the doors, garage door. And then they anticipate completion by first week in September. So.
Before the first football game.
Yep, before the first football game. So should be done. And then I just added these in here. You know, this is nothing I did. Our custodial grounds and maintenance crew, they do a phenomenal job. That's just some of the pictures in the school after they got done finishing the floors. They just look absolutely beautiful. It looks like glass, and I couldn't be more proud of them. The job they did. And our grounds guys, they do a phenomenal job as well. The maintenance guys do a phenomenal job as well, but it's more behind the scenes, up on the roof, behind the wall, but I give them credit as well. And we had several NSV staff help us this year, paras and teachers, because we're so short staffed. I did take a look and we're up to 20 now. So we're 20 evening custodial short. So we use them in the summertime to help us, and they did a great job working with our crews there. So I don't know, I can't give them enough praise. They just done an absolute outstanding job, and I work with a great group of people, so. And that's all I have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kylie. I know that we do all appreciate everything you guys do. And is that in your presentation with the floors, is that Woodland Spring?
It is.
Oh, that custodian he knows how to clean those floors. I don't know how to do it, but he sure does.
He does. Yep,
You can see yourself in them every day.
you can, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, any discussion, any other thoughts, comments for Kylie?
Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Kylie. All right, moving on. 8.04, the budget update.
Okay, Mr. Swin's gonna kind of give a continuation from our budget workshop, but I'll mainly take some moments and kind of also talk about those couple issues, but then kind of set the stage for what some of the things that you'll be doing in the next couple of meetings with the budget workshop, as well as the budget hearing that's coming up between the 26th and then the meeting right after that. So Doug, we'll let you take some moments and give us some budget.
All right. Well, good evening. This shouldn't take too long, not nearly as long as last time I sat in front of you. But tonight is mainly going to be dedicated to answering some questions from the previous meeting we had. Two very good questions were brought up. One surrounded virtual funding, and the other was regarding special assessments. So I really did a kind of a nosedive on both those topics, and I've got some slides to share with you tonight on those. And then I decided to peel off something that I would normally do at the next meeting, add it to tonight to just kind of spread it out so I don't overwhelm you in one night. I figure it's better to bite it off in chunks. So tonight we're going to dive into assess valuation, got some fun numbers to share there, and talk about the impact it'll have on our future. So it is important to note there's two more times I'll be before you. I'll be before you on August 26th, and that's kind of a big one. I'll go over how last year ended up, what the new budget looks like. We'll talk about the R&R notice that went out to taxpayers, and you may have gotten some calls or emails on that, and we'll talk through that. I will go over cash balances. We know how important that is, and I've told you for years we're thin, trying to build those up. I'll have an update there. And then I am so thankful. I know it was nice having that extra ESSER money, but I am going to be so glad when I don't have to record it and track it anymore. So it was an absolute pain. The reports that we had to give quarterly and annually to the state and the feds, it was a nightmare. And then I'll go over enrollment numbers, mill levy breakdown, and then we will talk about our next legislative target. We do have something on the horizon we need to address. And then when we get to September is when the public gets to come, if they want, to our budget hearing. I will do a very brief budget review, and these are the 6 topics I will typically cover. And then the public can speak, and if they have any comments or feedback for the board. And then that night you'll actually adopt the budget, and we will be done. And then you won't hear from me for a long time. So let's dive into virtual funding. Okay. This is a recap of last year. The way the revenue is figured is based on whether the students are full-time, part-time or if they're adults taking credit hours. And the adults can only get funded if they complete that credit hour. So if an adult enrolls in 6 classes, only completes 1, we're only going to get funded for the 1. So that's very important to note. Full-time, you can see the amount's 5,600 per FTE. That is all encompassing. So whereas I talked last time, as far as how our kids, we might get additional funding if they are, if they qualify for a free meal, and that would give us at-risk funding if they're bilingual, if they ride a bus. There's all these different add-ons depending on our students. For virtual, it's a flat amount, 5,600 per FTE. It is important to note, part-time was funded last year at 2,800 FTE. Now, I have argued for many years that is a poor way of doing it. And here's why. If we have 2 students that are half-time, 0.5 FTE, what the state would have done last year is take 0.5 plus 0.5, which equals 1.0, and they would fund it at 2,800. So 2 half-time kids were only worth a half of a full-time kid. It's bad math. They did get that fixed this year. So a half-time kid will get $2,800 by themselves. So I was glad to see that got fixed because that really bugged me because it takes just as much resources to take care of 2 half-time kids as it does 1 full-time, if not more. And they were doing it a fraction of the cost. So anyhow.
Doug, do you think there's any chance that they would budge on that anymore, just for what you're talking about? Like, they're still a child, whether they're a part, it's like 2
rather than making it
part-time
half.
kids are still more work than
Yeah.
1 full-time kid, but maybe you're looking like they helped you, so it's good.
Well, I will say, I don't know whoever the lobbyist is for the virtual school, but they do a heck of a job because when they want something done, it gets done. I don't know who their lobby person is, but I'll tip my hat to them because when there's these kind of issues come up, we don't have to wait 5-10 years for them to get fixed. So this one took a while, but I don't know that it was on their radar till most recently. So anyhow, so those are the 3 groups. You
Sorry,
add those
one more
up.
question, sir. Sorry. I just want to, does adult equal over 18?
Yeah, yes, 19 and over. Yeah.
Oh, 19.
19.
19.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe is the cutoff on that. So if you do the math on those 3 categories, total funding for last year was $9,242,390. You take that times 7%, that's our administrative fee that we get to keep. Okay. Next slide. There are some adjustments that I have to do before I pay out all the money to Insight. First of all, they have SPED teachers, and those SPED teachers qualify for categorical aid, and it flows through our SPED fund. And I'm not going to confuse you going through that, but the money for that comes into our SPED fund, and we give them credit for that because it's their teachers that's generating those dollars. So I add on to their disbursement amount, $499,752.60. Okay. Well, we also get audited on that. There wasn't an audit adjustment after the numbers were finalized, just under 9,000. And then there was another audit adjustment because we have to estimate the adult credit hours. We get audited in March, but the year's not up. And so we have to estimate where it's going to be when the year's up. And we always estimate high because if we don't estimate high, then we can't go back later and get the funding. It's just part of budgeting. So anyhow, 2 audit adjustments there. And then I showed you there's our fee. And if you net all that, there's a total adjustment to what I give Insight of $176,140.90. Here's what I did with that money. Okay, as I told you before, revenue, they're pulling in 9.2 million. Expenditures, we're going to show the 9.2 million. And you will see that after adjustments, they got 9,066,000 some change. What I used for part of our 7% I did charge some computers and related equipment that would have gone in capital outlay. We charged it here to kind of offset that. And then we also have some utilities and pest control for that facility, about 16,500. So that's going to be what's reflected when I give you the budget here in another couple weeks. You're going to see revenue and expenditures of the 9.2 million. Does that help? Now, I did tell you there's a chunk of change that flows through SPED. Since it flows through SPED and not through virtual, that's actually helping reduce our transfer there. If we didn't have that money coming in and setting in SPED, we would be transferring another 500,000 in to SPED out of our general fund. So we have our choice whether to reflect it in the SPED money in SPED or reflect it in virtual. For cleanness sake, I leave it in SPED and then I show everything else in virtual. I hope I explained that well. It's somewhat confusing and I have to stop and rethink every year how to do things, but thankfully I've got it all mapped out. All right. I think that was, yeah, that's my last slide on virtual. Do you have any other virtual related questions before I go to special assessment?
So basically on paper, it looks like it's a wash.
It's a wash. Yes.
And it really is because the expenses of having the program and housing it is pretty much, I mean.
We are keeping the 7%. That 7%'s nice. It's cutting down our transfers into SPED and we're also using some of that money for capital outlay related items to save us some dollars there. So. All right, special assessments. Let's see, 16 of them after I mapped them out. And I've got a long spreadsheet that I've got here if you really want to get in the weeds, but most of these here are related to connecting to sewer lines. The two for Wolf Creek are, the high school one is 2 sewer, 1 water and 1 street, because we did have to fund part of that street. The 2 Dayton Creek are sewer related. What was kind of interesting, I totally forgot about this till I started digging in the weeds. Our future elementary site, if you don't remember, when we made a trade for Hilltop. We got 2 pieces of property, approximately 17 acres each for Hilltop. And one of them we built timber sage on. The other one's still sitting vacant. Unfortunately, there is an assessment attached with that. And you see we're paying about $6,600 to Johnson County wastewater because of that. It's $380 an acre is the calculation. That's a little over 17 acres, which is why we're paying $65.70. I called it future Spring Hill High School number 2. That's 175th in Ridgeview. It's also being assessed $380 an acre from Johnson County wastewater. And there's 3 pieces of property that make up that. I think it's close to 160 acres. And so they're all getting assessed individually, the 3 pieces. And then Woodland Spring Middle School, that one is for Lindenwood Road. And I did attach to board documents a sample of what. Oh, yeah.
The future elementary and high school 2 are the same site. It's all in the same quarter section. It's just they were purchased at different times, which is why they're separate. So it's all on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? The future elementary site, high school site, they're all touching one another. Same, purchased at different times, but touch one another.
But the 6,500 is separate from the 49,000,
We get billed separately.
even though
yes.
they're
Yeah.
together.
Yep. And you'll see that the one hit or started in fiscal year 20, the other one started in fiscal 21. But I attached a sample just in case you're what is a benefit district? What's that look like? What might the board have to approve if we do buy some property and have to develop it? So you'll see on board docs, the Woodland Spring Middle School Lindenwood Road agreement. The other thing I attached for a sample is the high school, the four of those, the repayment schedules, and you'll see how they broke them out over 20 years. Most benefit districts are 20-year periods. The one for Woodland Spring Middle School was actually just 15. And I didn't realize that till I dug in and looked at the schedule. So it's just a 15-year one. All the rest I'm pretty sure are 20. And I'm still in the process of double checking that. Altogether, you add it all up, 16 of them, various start dates, various end dates, about $268,000 is our annual commitment. 1 mil will generate in our new fiscal year about 540,000. I'll have that slide here shortly. So to meet our obligations takes about $500,000 is what we're looking at. We do have a pretty good cash balance here. So I don't always levy exactly $500,000. There's been years I've levied 3 mils and built that cash balance up. There's been other years I've levied less. It's kind of a teeter-totter effect. If we start building up a nice cash balance, then I levy less. As that balance gets drawn down, then I start trying to replenish it in years that I can. Right now, I don't think we have any more on the horizon, and it's not too far off. That the high school one's a big one. The 4, it's getting ready to drop off in fiscal year 28. So about half of our obligations disappear in just a few more years. So
Doug, on
Yep.
that Lindenwood, that's from that traffic circle at 167th north.
the road.
No, I know the road, Lindenwood, right from the traffic circle north to
Yes.
where it was a dead end underneath those power lines, right?
Yeah,
And so we paid for that. The school district paid for that.
we had to pay for part of it. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, because that's my question is, why isn't Rod Rocker, the developer, paying for that?
And
They are.
Okay.
It's actually one of the reasons that Olathe won't do benefit districts anymore. Because a lot of the existing residents got forced into it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I was one of those for the Merlin piece. So,
Tell me if I'm wrong. We chose to that so that we could have a little bit of say in what happened down when they developed the south side of it. No?
We didn't choose it.
No.
it needed a road, and they said we needed to pay for part of it if we want a road there. So
we actually, benefit districts are a very beneficial way for us because we don't have to come up with the money during the bond time, number one. Number two, the city manages the project. We don't have to. And number three, they get a lot better pricing than we typically do. Sorry, when we have a construction manager help us with it. The road pieces is not typically the cheapest way for us to go. So letting somebody else do that is actually a big win for us.
did we get all your questions answered? Because this is all I have for special assessment. Did we get them all? Okay. We're good. I think. That's up to you.
Okay.
So Doug, you were saying that there's really no more on the horizon because we have land for pretty much any project that we want to do here, pretty much for a while.
Well, and because it's sewer and roads primarily, we've got sewer and roads into our existing properties. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
That we have all on the books?
So we shouldn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
no guarantees. Just depends on what that future bond issue looks like. If the choice is to build a CTE building on our existing high school site, we may be okay avoiding any assessments associated with that piece.
We actually have one pending in a contract. When the property east of the 175th and Ridgeview property, the old Bame farm around Hilltop, when it sold and the city started allowing development on that site, we entered into a road sharing agreement that had the desired mechanism to be a benefit district. So far, we haven't been able to get the city to move forward with that benefit district. So that may be one in this next bond that we're going to need to put a little bit of dollars aside to build Lindenwood from 175th north to what would be 171st. And so that would be the only pending one, but again, it's not whether it happens or not. I don't know.
Exciting stuff. Anything else? Before I move on to assess valuation, I love assess valuation. All right, here we go. So peeled this off. Normally I'd take care of it in 2 weeks. I thought, let's just go ahead and talk about it tonight. See if you have any questions on it. This graph is just absolutely amazing from 1990 to where we're going to be at this year. You know, fairly stable growth, and then it just really takes off. And then a brand new slide that I created this year, I called it double vision. I thought that was kind of cool. So how often have we doubled? So from 92 to 93, we're at 25 million. Well, how long did it take to get to 50 million? Only took 7 years. Well, how long did it take to double again? Another 7 years. And you go all the way down and just keep doubling. And this number just blows me away. The estimated assessed valuation number, the latest from Greg Varnberg, who does our helps us as we determine what that next bond issue might be and how we are going to afford it. You know, we project out assessed valuation, what it might do. And the current number on the table, and we look at it every year and revise it as we go, has 2037, 2038 at an estimated 1.6 trillion. I mean, that just, I love numbers. That blows me out of the water. So.
Going from 8.
Oh, you know, it is. It is. I got way too excited. You are absolutely right. My bad. It is billion. I'm sorry. Billion. Yes.
I thought Dr. Evil may have gotten in and helped him with his number.
Yeah. I got so excited, I just started adding zeros. And so, no, that it doubles from 800 million to 1.6 billion. I'll get that fixed. All right. And so I did want to take just a moment because when you're prepping for a bond issue and trying to determine what you can afford and repayment schedules, what's the mill levy going to look like? I grabbed this one from 2017 that Greg helped us put together. And I know this is too small to read, so I then zoomed in on some key numbers. I thought the really cool part on the left-hand side was back in 2017, as we were looking at that 2018 bond issue, you know, we had a lot of assumptions that we made. And at that time, we were looking out to 2037, and the AV we were looking at was only 663 million. And now we're looking at 1.6 billion. It's just, there's been a $1 billion change in a 7-year period. It's pretty incredible. We just grew a lot faster at a lot faster pace than we anticipated back in 2017.
Doug, is there any segmentation that you have on the figures, commercial versus residential, that shows kind of the breakout? If you,
I think
one of those lines was 2 colors, how much of that is commercial? And
I think I can split that out. I know
Just curious.
the details here don't.
Well, and I'm just wondering, is commercial kind of doing the hockey stick growth like residential, or?
I will tell you, and I have looked at this number as far as how reliant we are on residential versus everybody else in Johnson County, and our percentage is the highest. We are really dependent on residential to foot the bill. Thankfully, though, as more industry like Walmart gets on the tax rolls, those kind of big developments are really going to help long-term help the residential hopefully see a decrease down the road. We are just way too heavy on the residential side, but it's coming. It's coming. There's projects, and travel plaza, is that the right phrase? It's hopefully coming if it's approved by KDOT. That could be a pretty good dollar amount. But at the same time, you also see all the homes being built. So there's that growth as well. So great questions. Let me see if I had any other notes. We did the flashback, did the zoom in, and you can see that back in 2017, we were thinking, okay, AV is going to grow about 10% for 2019. Let's be conservative and say only 8% for 2021, and then 6% annually thereafter. We blew those numbers out of the water. I mean, and I did share, that is my last slide, but I did have a page from my budget book that will show you at the very bottom the last 5 years. So you'll see last 5 years growing 9.6, 10.5, 18.4, 20, 12.2. So when your estimates are 6% thereafter, and then these numbers show up, that's how you go from thinking you're going to have 600 million down the road to 1.6 billion. So this slide also has some asterisks out there because keep in mind these, when I build the budget, the assessed values that we use are estimates. There are people protesting their property values, and some of them are going to win their protest. And so there are some newer numbers that we know are going to go down. And so I went ahead and adjusted some of those and put some asterisks there just to kind of keep track. Because if I use too big of number and it comes in a lot smaller, then that mill levy is going to go up to make up that difference. So anyhow, the other thing I wanted to note is technically speaking, there are 3 AV numbers. There is the AV amount for calculating the general fund, which you can see on the right. That number is going to be a lot less, and it's a lot less because the state just recently increased the exemption for homeowners from, and I shared this a while back, 42,000 to, was it 75? Does that sound right? It was a huge jump.
42% or something.
Yeah. So homeowners might see a little bit of a reprieve on the general fund portion. But the other levies is a higher amount because it doesn't include an exemption like the general fund. And then there's another calculation, just a little bit different for capital outlay. Capital outlay, and this started just a couple years ago. Capital outlay used to be based on all other levies, and then they did some weird things with some exemptions and stuff, and now it's calculated slightly different. It really doesn't, dollar wise, it doesn't impact us a whole lot. So you will see though that right now we're estimated 535,000 is what 1 mill will generate. And if you just do a quick look back, it was about half that in 1920. So come a long ways in a short period of time.
Not 1920.
2019.
2019.
Sorry.
So I know that the assessed valuation has gone up, in much higher rate, but also we've had a lot of inflation too of cost, not just that. So our costs have gone up too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just one of the, general comments, feedback for the board and everybody else, the 20 mills at the state assessment that the exemption is out there. We got our assessment of the house and there's no shape or form of explanation for the average taxpayer to understand that. So I don't know whether we got to put together a fact sheet or something, but that document is clear as mud, and I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So just
Is this the notice that all the property owners get of what's the anticipated
Yes.
mill levy that the R&R
Yeah.
revenue neutral rate?
And in fairness, I'm on the Miami County side. Maybe the Johnson County side explains it in
No.
great and eloquent detail, but
I think it is a horribly confusing document that should cease and desist. It creates more confusion to taxpayers than anything.
well, as I said,
Um,
I know what we're talking about and it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
Because like I had mentioned before, sometimes we have to estimate a little high just in case, because they're wanting the numbers so early. I mean, I haven't even presented the budget to you, but they want to know what the mill levy is going to be. So we have to set a lid, and everybody's having to do this, set a lid of, okay, we won't go any higher than this. And so everybody hedges their bets and adds just a little bit on just in case. And then as we finally put our budgets together, we go, okay, well, we can lower to $500,000 and be okay. But we had to give the number so early, they're inflated. And it's unfortunate because the numbers that were shared with taxpayers are not going to be what the final numbers are. So it makes us look a lot worse than we are. And that's not just the school district. That could be the city. That could be all other entities that are included in the overall mill levy. So great questions. Anything else before I call it good? And I'll be back. So if you do think of other questions, the next one's kind of the big one. I'm going to give you a complete recap of last year, how we ended up, and really go into the meat and the potatoes for the new budget year. So it should be an exciting meeting. So
Wonderful.
if not, I'll give you your money back. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Doug, I get excited about numbers too. So
All right, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 8:11.
sounds great.
We're going to be back in session.
You're the next contestant.
All right. We are moving on to 9.01, future discussion items. So as discussed a little bit, I think we're going to try to restructure this, how we utilize this. And please, I'd love all of your feedback. I think historically we had used this mainly for our board. So our board to utilize it really is just a list of items that they would hope to see on a future agenda, or things that we together need to discuss and see if we want to, as a consensus, ask for any information or anything like that. See if there's anywhere it needs to go. I think it's kind of morphed into something that is maybe not as it's intended. So moving forward, it will just be in list format. Dr. Luttrell will update us on these if he chooses during his superintendent's report or during his Friday update, any of those things. But this really will be utilized only for all of us to add to. Not only that is as we move them to the board calendar, they'll fall off this list. So is there any thoughts on not moving forward in that direction? Okay, perfect. So not only that, so Rachel, I'd love it between you and Dr. Luttrell, if you could consolidate this a little bit to remove once Dr. Luttrell takes his notes or whatever and moves them into a different area, but it just needs to be a list. Along with, does anyone have anything they'd like to add?
I have one thing, and this is boring, and there's some decisions that have come out in the courts and lots of other things that impact public comment period. I think we have an opportunity to, since we're a new board, to refine the public comment section. So we're in keeping with the spirit, which is we want to hear people, but putting the guardrails around it. So those expectations are out there and the times are out there. And ultimately my goal is so we get to a policy where we're not favoring or disfavoring the speech that's coming before us. People get there a lot of time and they get to say, within the confines of the time, manner, and place restrictions that we have, and have a policy that supports that. So we don't feel like we have speakers that are saying, oh, well, you let this person talk on because they were singing your praises, but this other person that was criticizing you kept them to the time limit. So I'd like to put that policy on there.
There's actually some trainings that have been developed by the Johnson County Sheriff and I think some other sheriff's office and some other organizations that will come in and kind of do a training on how you should respond and what you should say. I got some information about it. I'll pass it on to you. I think I got it at work. And so I don't know whether it was for the context of school board or not. Sometimes people send me stuff, but when I heard from the Johnson County Sheriff's Office, then there was another one through something maybe that KSB sent out or something that was a training that just helps you kind of know what you should and shouldn't allow and to kind of keep you from violating somebody's First Amendment rights without even knowing it. So that might be something good to do sometime.
Yeah, I think that's awesome information. And I will be the first to say I haven't looked too much forward to our board work calendar, but if we have a work session and there's a training or something, maybe that's a really great time to do the training, rehash the policy if,
Yeah, I'm just looking for it to get that added on future discussions.
Yep.
You know,
So Rachel,
yeah.
yep. Will you add that to future discussion items and then Yeah, we'll look at a work session or something like that. Anyone else? I would love to add, I know I've asked this a few times, but I'd really, really like to add, getting more involved in our schools, as a board, whether it be volunteer days, a message out to our, principals saying that we'd love to be in the schools more, volunteer more, d- serve our teachers and serve our students. So, I'd like to add that to the list as well. And whether that be a letter from the board or whether that's, just a little more organized volunteer days or both. But I'd love to discuss that as well. Anyone else?
I don't have something else, but the policy, I'm sorry, the policy was BCBI.
Thank you.
Is getting that into policy instead of a general statement. Sorry,
Nope.
but I agree with you. Get more involved.
BCEI is related to public comment. Yes? Is that what you?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Public participation is what it is.
Thank you. Okay. Well, so no other suggestions. We can move on to the board work calendar. Awesome. Moving on.
Okay, the board work calendar coming up, like I said, is pretty, there's gonna be a lot on it. You've got Mr. Swin outlined. We've got some more budget information, the budget workshop, as well as the budget hearing, the next two meetings, which, will be quite extensive. We also have, I was able to get the initial, we've had some talk at some point, our high school has looked at transitioning possibly to a different athletic activity conference. Initially, they had said they could come in October, but they have been able, I've talked with them, they're gonna come and give an initial report as to just why this has come up, why they feel it might be beneficial, what some options they're looking at. They'll take questions from you all, then they can go back and get more information, then bring it back at a later time. But rather than try to work under a tight calendar, if that decision was made at some point, they're going to come at on the August 26th session and present some general information to everyone. We also have some general assessment data that we'll start getting out as part of our strategic plan updates that we'll get to you, as well as I want to start getting some more programming, some of the key programs that we have in our district that do great work. Some of them, have some funding source behind them that we probably know very little about, but they're very good programs like The Leader in Me that you heard about this morning, that's in all of our elementary schools. And it was on the consent agenda this evening. Would like for you all to hear a presentation from some of our teachers and principals about just how they utilize that and the benefits of that. Another one that I'd like, again, just some other examples that we could bring in at some time over the course of a year, or even some of them, there's so many could be over a 2-year period, set up a schedule and get them on the agenda. Would be like our one area that we are seeing some increases in over the last 3 to 5 years is the number of families that come into the district that are English is not the main language, and our numbers in that have continued to increase. We do have a great staff with that, but I think it would be beneficial for you all to hear just first and foremost the number of families that they have with different languages that come to our district, and just some of the services that they provide. And also each and every time a program comes, they could also kind of just share, hey, this is our vision, what we'd like to maybe see at some point, down the road, 3 years, 5 years that we think would attribute to the program. So I'm going to try to work some of those in. We've still meeting with different individuals to see which ones we want to get on there and where to try to schedule them at. So, but the calendar, it's good. Like I said, it's always plenty to have and discuss.
Yeah, Dr. Luttrell, on those updates, one of the things, and we approved a slew of AP books and classroom materials. I'm thinking it might be good to hear an update of how those turned out and how all that AP and honors went
Yes.
with those new techs.
Yeah, and like I say, yeah, there's always something like I said that I have been and working with Dr. Robinson. I've talked and Dr. Smith and other directors about what do we need to work in. We've even got, we're now a full year in with our strategic system. It would, I think at some point, probably during the course of this school year or this semester, that's an update on when we do safety that we could probably just kind of give, an update, general updates to how that's went. So yes, definitely.
Are we, something to note for everybody, our meeting on the 26th starts at 5:30. Along with Dr. Shaw, I just want to make sure. So it looks like we have the athletic conference discussion, but you also have athletic conference transition as action item.
Okay, on the agenda, like I said, that's still a lot of the, on the, again, the calendar, like I said, that stays very fluid.
Gotcha.
And as we move items around, but no, there will not be an action item at all in August, or in August, September, even October. And like I said, if it's on there, it just hasn't been taken off yet because we just now got verification. I think it was Friday afternoon late that we were able to move them into the 26th. And so we have to kind of arrange some of the others, but yeah, that would not be action.
So I'm just looking at approved KSB suggested policy changes. Have we done that this month? That's on our annual calendar.
If we have them, that's whenever we would typically try to do them. Some of them that we have, I know we approved some recently, some of them we were going to look at bringing back. Dr. Robinson, do you have anything on the policies? I mean, we really don't have anything coming down the pipe. And like I said, and so we'll adjust that as we get through it.
Yeah, our next policy update from KSB would come in January normally.
Okay.
We have submitted everything for them to start our policy review, but there won't be anything until I would say November, December at the earliest that we'll see from that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Anything else? Any thoughts? Okay, wonderful. Moving on to Board of Education member reports.
Yeah, so I just real quick, it's a timing thing, right? The Spring Hill Rec meetings take place the Wednesday after our first meeting of the month. And so I feel like I'm always missing the opportunity to update everybody when we have our second meeting of the month, because I have to wait until the first meeting of the next month. But one really exciting thing, registrations, participation is through the roof at Spring Hill Rec. And the big news is it's been approved not only by the Spring Hill Rec, but also by the city. The transfer of the sports complex from the city to Spring Hill Rec. And that's the ball field and facility that's out there west of behind Sonic, right? And it's really interesting to me that Spring Hill Rec by its charter or whatever is not allowed to buy or really own land unless it's given to them as a gift like this. And so it's really exciting. There's big things coming. I think Brian and his team have got a lot of things planned now that they've kind of taken ownership of that facility. And so we'll hopefully see some really good things develop as a result of that. But that's big news.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that update. That is great news. Anyone else?
This isn't mine specifically, but a shout out to the class of 2004. They just had their 20th reunion this past weekend. They had a pretty good turnout. There was like 25, 30 people, I think, 30, 35 people. Anyway, it's great turnout. They had a really good time catching up and it was pretty interesting. So it was cool to hear that the reunions are happening and to get some positive feedback about it. It seems like it's something that the district doesn't get a ton of information about. So
Wonderful. Awesome. Anyone else? Anyone? Well, many of us attended, I believe all of us here, the opening ceremonies this morning, and I thought it was really exciting to see a lot of the energy and excitement for tomorrow and for Wednesday. But it's exciting to see the teachers refreshed and renewed and encouraged for the year. And all right, well, let's move on to superintendent's report.
Quick, like I said, enrollment, like I said, we don't need to get too worked up about it because it's going to continue to be fluid. Probably will not even settle down until after Labor Day. And of course, our count days, and is in that mid-September range. But as of late last week, our K-12 enrollment was, again, give or take a few less shy of 4,000. Again, that's K through 12. That doesn't include any pre-K because those students are kind of hard to figure in this much because not all of them come full time. But I did say, like I said, each grade K through 7 is above 300. And I checked late this afternoon, and all of I think every single K-7 grade that's above 300 is ahead of the number they were about this time last year. Some of it's barely, but still, you go to 8th grade is the first grade that right now that we're below, that has a below 300, but it's not. And then at the high school, of course, we're still kind of leveling out there. But even though the high school is going to have probably very high enrollment, well over 1,100, we have a very large freshman class. The other 3 still are in the 200s. But that's going to, as you can see, we're continuing to trend there. Again, as echo what some of you said, the first day is tomorrow. But our opening ceremony today was just amazing. I thought it was said, it was great energy from our teachers. Especially want to say thank you to all the people that helped contribute. That Rachel did a great job. Her and Leah did a great job getting the food together. Phil and his crew did a great job as far as with the technical side, and our communications department. It takes a lot of people to make an event like that to pull together. But most of all, like I said, an added special feature this year was Mr. Bartley and members of the high school band. The rain definitely was held off in their favor, but that added a great element to it. Just a great kickoff to the school year. And I know that I'm looking forward to us having a great school year. And I think that now we are ready to hopefully share just a brief clip of some of the first days of back to school work with our staff.
No, it's not muted. No. Trying as fast as I can, guys. Like we're on Mystery Science Theater.
It's a lot of last minute things, adjusting student desks and kind of last minute painting, touch up, things like that. There is a lot going on still.
And tomorrow morning, we're rolling.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Luttrell. Next on our agenda, we need an executive session.
Madam President, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interest of the identifiable individuals under coma. Those to be in this session include the Board of Education members, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent, the Board Clerk, and Board Clerk candidate. The session to begin at 8:35, ending no later than 9 o'clock. To resume at this place.
Thank you very much.
Second.
There's a motion, a second discussion. All right, Rachel, please take the vote.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Hull,
Yes.
approved.
All right, we are back in session. We have an action item.
Madam President, I move to approve the recommendation of hiring Ms. McLaughlin as Deputy Board Clerk with additional compensation of $9,880.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, Rachel, please take the vote.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
approved.